Folks, welcome to the Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026 meeting of the Plymouth Select Board. We're a little rusty here after being off for a couple of weeks, so bear with us. Pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of the Select Board after first notifying the chair, subject to the reasonable requirements of the chair, so as not to interfere with the conduct of the meeting. At the beginning of the meeting, the chair will inform other attendees of any such recordings. At this time, I'm only aware of filming by the local scene. Is there anyone else who's recording this meeting, either by video or audio? Hearing and seeing none, I'll move on. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency and signed into law on March 28, 2025, this meeting will be conducted via remote means and in person. Members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so by tuning into the local scene, government access channels Comcast 9 or Verizon 47, or you may watch it on the local scene's website. Members of the public who wish to participate may do so by appearing here in the Great Hall at Town Hall, located at 26 Court Street in Plymouth, or remotely by clicking on the link which is on our agenda and published on our website. Please join the board in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Given the recent events with the blizzard of 2026, I asked that the town manager first give his update, and I know he has some supporting actors here in the room. So, Mr. Brindisi. Floor is yours.
Okay, good evening, Derek Brindisi, Town Manager. So the chair asked me to give the community an update relative to the storm or the blizzard from last week. So tonight I'll talk a little bit about the town's preparation and response efforts, so folks have a better sense of what the first responders and Department of Public Works and other response agencies went through. So I'm going to start this presentation just talking a little bit about, some of the pre-storm planning. And so, we have a number of agencies here with us today: emergency management, fire, police, DPW, IT. I know I saw Joe Young earlier. Where's Joe? He disappeared. IT was a part of all this, and others. School department as well. So like any weather event or any, type of emergency planning, typically, we get together as soon as possible. Emergency management is always giving the various departments weather updates so that we can start tracking these types of storms. So the first collective meeting we had as a response agency came on Saturday, February 21st. So emergency management convened this meeting, representatives from Health and Human Services, Fire, Police, DPW, emergency management, and the schools, DPW as well, and again, a few other agencies. So that's typically the collective agencies that get together. We talk about, what we're expecting. We talk about pre-staging assets, making sure that our staff that need to be called in, that they're well aware that they may get called, so they need to be standing at the ready. So at this first meeting, we determined that given the high winds and the heavy snow, we were expecting this to be a severe event. We were expecting lots of power outages. I'll talk about power outages in a little bit, but these are some of the expectations. So because of that, we declared, again, working with everybody else, communicating with the chair of the select board, a local state of emergency. And then that evening, we issued a public statement like we do for any other event. And then as things started to evolve, again, anticipating power outages. And we typically always try to open shelters, whether they're warming stations, just for folks to, get out of the cold, or cooling stations in the winter. And those of us that have been a part of these types of responses, oftentimes when we open these shelters, they're not utilized. They really aren't. But we do it as a safety net for those folks that need to use them. And I'll talk about the Red Cross shelter. So we determined, listen, although folks don't typically take advantage of shelters, we think it's important to work with the school department, pre-stage assets at North High School, work with the Red Cross, coordinate with them to have this available if and when necessary. Once we made that determination on February 22nd, we issued another public statement. And just so folks are aware, we often talk about, in our statements, we highlight the fact that if you have a concern or a complaint, try to use SeeClickFix. We implemented SeeClickFix in the spring of 22 after the January 22 storms. And the fact that it was very difficult for our residents to communicate with response agencies in a time of need. And so we continue to push that. We want folks to use that because whether it's a pothole or a downed tree limb, once you submit that request, it automatically goes to the appropriate agency. So if it's a downed tree limb, it goes to Parks. If it's a pothole, it goes to Highway. If it's a dog in the road, it goes to Animal Control. So we encourage folks to use that. We just started Smart 911. We want folks to enroll in Smart 911. These are ways that we can communicate with the community. SeeClickFix is a way that the community can communicate with the town. Jade, can you hit a couple of these? So we have a number of videos. Because this was day one. So day one was that Monday, the 23rd. Go ahead, Jay. I'll just keep talking. You can keep them both going at the same time. And what we want folks to realize, this was whiteout conditions. And where's Casey? She's not here. On that Monday, we must have done over a dozen media interviews with Boston stations, local stations, radio stations, and what we kept saying over and over is stay off the road, because what that was doing when folks weren't heeding that advice, you can see the whiteout conditions. On the news they were saying, oh, there's quarter-mile visibility. It was more like 10 or 15-foot visibility, and we had a number of residents we had to pull out of the snowbanks. They were stuck. We had response vehicles that we had to pull out. And so, Mr. Coyle, where is he? If I asked Mr. Coyle right now, if you had one piece of equipment to help us respond, what would it be? And he would say a front-end loader. We had to use our front-end loaders to pull out these vehicles out. The town only owns 3 front-end loaders. One of them broke down on day one. So we were down to 2 front-end loaders on day one. And so this posed a significant problem because we're trying to plow roads, but at the same time, we're using fire apparatus and police cruises in front-end loaders to help people who are stranded on the side of the road. So again, the moral of this story is please heed the advice. And I know we weren't just saying it, but if you turn on every Boston news station, they were also saying stay off the road. They are not passable. Go ahead, Jade. I'm just trying to get it to move. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I do this one. So this was day 2. This is the day after the storm. So this is a aerial footage downtown Plymouth of what it looked like, after the storm. And I wanted to show this video because I think it's really important to talk about the severity of the storm and what was created. Oftentimes, especially in this event, people are drinking their coffee and they're looking out their front door window and they say, my road's not plowed. And I can understand that because that's what they're viewing, but what they didn't see is all the damage that was created, because of this storm. And so again, this posed significant challenges to all of our different response agencies. This is just the Plymouth EOC. This is, as you all know, this is located down the Cedarville Fire Station. At the EOC, we had general staff who reported for duty just to be call takers. We had representatives from the DPW, from fire, police, health and human services, all in this location, all managing their lines of authority. We had an individual, you can see right there with the white glasses, from the emergency manager from BID Plymouth. So we were in constant communication. And as this grew, we needed more and more individuals down at the Emergency Operations Center because there were so many calls that were coming into the EOC. And then our emergency management director, who's here with us this evening, I mean, his primary role was just to get resources, try to get as many resources as possible to bring to bear. And I remember the director from BID leaning over to Chris and saying, the morgue is full and we have nowhere else to put bodies. So we were able to reach out to MEMA and assist BID with some of their logistics requests as well. So again, that is, that's the heart of what's happening, and we're communicating with all fire, police, and DPW at this time, and the shelter operations as well. So I'm just going to get into some quick data. And so one thing we asked the fire and police department to do is, given the number of calls that they faced, let's just do an analysis of the number of calls they faced in that week versus the number of calls of a typical week. And so you can see right here, just on day one, on a typical Monday, the police department responds to about 45 calls. On that Monday, day one of the storm, they responded to 178 calls. And then you see on Tuesday, 47, they respond to 143. So they were tripling plus the number of calls they were responding to in a typical week. So you can see right here that they had over 1,000 calls that week. 698 was dispatched and 311 was self-initiated. In a typical week, they would see about 356 dispatch and 332 self-initiated. So a lot of what we asked the departments to look at is like, what was the top 3 or 4 number of calls? And you can see right here, the top call for police to respond to was doing well-being checks. We had a lot of calls of concerned family members who are living out of state saying, can you go check on my mom? Can you go check on my dad? I haven't heard from them in 2 or 3 days. I'm worried about them. And so the police department did a lot of that. We had 42 motor vehicle accidents, you can see here, and then alarms. We get a lot of fire alarms, especially once the power gets turned back on. A lot of businesses, their alarms go off. So we have to respond to each and every one of those. And then you can see this last one, 103 disabled vehicles. A typical work week, you see 13 disabled vehicles. And this goes back to my previous statement that we were really trying to get people off the road as much as we could. And I would say the vast majority of those 103 happened on day one. And so here's the staffing levels. You can see right here, obviously we had to increase staffing levels. We had 1 shift commander, 33 patrol supervisors, and 20 officers for a total of 36 on the day shift, 26 on the evening shift, and then 16 overnight. So you'll see over time that what we were trying to do is we were bringing in, we were keeping firefighters and police officers, we were keeping them on duty, not allowing them to go home because of the constant volume of calls that we were getting. One thing I would just want to point out here, this generator, and we continue to have this generator problem. The PD, I think, is about 30 years old. The generator is just as old. So we were trying to survive on a 30-year-old generator, and that generator failed. And we were just talking upstairs, Mr. Canty and Chief Foley, about like, what does that mean when the generator goes down at the police department? Well, that affects our 911 dispatch ability, that affects our PSAP. And so this was a problem that we continued to face during the course of the storm because, as you all know, we had power outages that were affecting, the entire community. And so a lot of our critical infrastructure was being affected by those power outages, and we were all relying on generator power. And so, like anything else, you always have casualties of war. With the police department, they had 3 IODs from that. You can see right here, we had one of our cruisers. This was on day one this happened. Was hit by another vehicle who should not have been on the road. We had in total 6 damaged cruisers and 2 cruiser accidents. So jumping into fire, again, same data, present a little bit differently. Fire had 651 calls during that week. Their typical work week, they had about 250 calls over that same 7-day period, which represents about a 250% increase in calls on that week of the storm. You can see the number of man hours that took to respond to those, almost 1,700 man hours it took to respond to those calls versus a typical work week is about 630. For fire, you could guess this, but these were the top 3 types of calls. We were really trying to push with Casey Kennedy, I don't see her right now, our communications coordinator, really trying to educate folks about generator safety. The fire department responded to dozens and dozens of carbon monoxide incidents because the exhaust from the generators were backing into people's homes. We have one individual who works in town hall who said that her parents experienced the highest carbon monoxide readings that not this fire department, another fire department had ever read. So carbon monoxide poisoning is not only fatal, but it's a serious concern for us. And so that was in large part a lot of the calls that they went to. And like everything else, our fire department works very closely with EMS. Medical emergencies are also in the top 3 as well, as you can imagine. So you'll see right here what a typical minimum staffing of the fire department is, about 25 firefighters and 8 apparatus. The fire chief increased that, went from 25 firefighters to 36 firefighters, and then staff an additional piece of apparatus. I believe is that the rescue out of Pine Hills. So we, again, chief, knowing that there's going to be an increased call volume, staffed that 9th piece of equipment as well. So again, trying to demonstrate that, we had to increase staffing based upon the call volume. So as far as fires, we had 2 IODs, we had 1 damaged vehicle, and then we had a number of fires. And I know early on, 3 of the structure fires that the fire department had to respond to, 2 of them, I believe, were from down power lines. So people's homes were caught on fire because of the down power lines. Correct, Chief? So again, a lot of work by our fire department to be able to respond to those and and deal with those as quickly as possible. So these are some really cool images. So this is an individual, it's a medical emergency. We couldn't get the apparatus to the home. So these guys had to hump to the house, put the patient on this gurney, and then hand carry them, back to the ambulance. This is actually someone's house back there. You wouldn't know it. The fire department had to dig their way through this house. You can see the snow drifts to the left here. The fire department having to dig their way to get into this home for another medical emergency. So again, these are just some images of what our first responders had to go through in order to respond to this event. Here's one of the structure fires here left, and this was just one of the other 7 fires that we had to respond to. So DPW, this Department of Public Works obviously gets a lot of the attention during snow emergencies. 734 calls went into See, Click, Fix. We had over 1,000 phone calls that were taken separately during that period of time. We had we have 380 roads to plow. We had to do that approximately 3 times, right, based upon the number of road miles that were plowed, and cleared 16 sidewalks. This is something at some point in the future, maybe the October town meeting, I'd love to have a conversation with the select board about the residents' responsibilities to clearing sidewalks. We have a staff of about 140 DPW employees, and it's nearly impossible to clear the sidewalks. So this is all hands on deck effort in order to be able to do the work that's necessary. So as far as on day 1, what this looked like, we had 35 DPW employees pushing snow. We had 68 contractors pushing snow at the same time. So we had about 108 on day 1. We had a number of other employees that were, working on facilities. We have to make sure that our Our pump stations are working to ensure that we continue to pump water to people's homes. Our sewer operations, a lot of these sewer and water operations were on generator power. And so we had to have staff going and checking all those every single day, all day long, to make sure that we were keeping our infrastructure up and running. So again, no one ever talks about that. They only call when they don't have water or they have rusty water, but they don't see what's happening behind the scenes when we have staff out there trying to keep this going. So as far as down tree limbs, as you can imagine, we had a lot. So our parks division worked on this. They had 125 down tree calls, 85 clearing efforts. So that's just like moving pieces of debris out of the road. And they were, supported 2 temporary generators as well. And so I would say thank you to MEMA, first and foremost. We received multiple phone calls directly from the Lieutenant Governor, Kim Driscoll, who was calling on a regular basis saying, what do you need in Plymouth? How can we help you? And so, working with our emergency operations team, we put in lots of requests. And so these are all the pieces of equipment that MEMA sent us. I don't see the Humvees though. Maybe that's on the next slide. We had 4 Humvees that were delivered as well. That was one part of the early delivery because, as you can imagine, on day one, folks couldn't get out of their home. They wanted to get to the shelter. So we used Humvees to transport people. 5 Humvees? That was fun. But again, getting back to the front end loaders, I know I've received a lot of emails from folks over the past 2 days saying, hey, downtown Plymouth looks great. North Plymouth looks great. I can't believe the great job you guys did. And a large part of it was because of MEMA. They giving us 32 front end loaders and 20 dump trucks. We had 2 snow melters. I believe that's this piece of equipment right here. We're just melting snow as it comes in. This was all came because of them. We'd love to have 10 front end loaders on standby at all times, but 360 days a year, we really don't need it. So it's 5 days a year, we need those front end loaders. So again, a lot of credit goes to the state for really stepping up, especially on the South Shore. So this is the National Guard. These are the military police that helped us with transport on the first couple of days. We were getting people out of their homes, bringing them to the shelter. This is background. This is the shelter operation at Plymouth North. And then when power turned on, they turned around, they drove them home, which was great. So again, shelter operations. This was led by the American Red Cross. We had the fire department was there staffing it, again, along with some folks from the National Guard. We had staff from the school department that was there. The school department provided all of the food. So their food service team was there throughout the event, preparing food. We had other agencies there as well, Health and Human Services there, assisting as much as they could. So you can see the number of people that utilized this operation. I mentioned earlier that we've opened up shelters, warming centers, cooling centers all the time, and nobody ever uses them. But this time, thankfully, we had it open because, as you can see there, we had 156 individuals that participated some way. Maybe some of them maybe not have spent the night, but maybe they just went there for the day to power their equipment, to get a warm meal and to get warmed up, and then maybe go back home that night. That was well utilized. And then we opened, because we saw the need, we opened up a warming station down at Cedarville Fire Station where 30 residents came in. We saw them on a regular basis, and most of them, they were there for the day, using the Wi-Fi, some of them working, just getting warm, powering up their devices. So again, almost 200 individuals used these 2 locations over time. So as far as power outages, when we peaked, I remember I did my first media interview at 6:15, and I asked our emergency management director, can you send me the power outage number? And I think, Chris, I think the first number you gave me was like 3,000 at 5:45 a.m. And then right before I went live, it went to like 10,000, like literally within 30 minutes. And so we knew that this was going to grow very rapidly. And so, by the end of by 12:40 p.m. on Monday, we were at 27,000, which represented 80% of the community. 27,000 homes were without power at that time. And then you see over time, slowly things started to get turned on. One thing I didn't mention is that we also had an Eversource rep at the EOC. So we were getting information in real time coming from Eversource, the work that they would do. And they had they had over 200 crews working in this community trying to restore power. So again, big effort by Eversource. They had a lot of manpower, a lot of equipment in this community, trying to get power restored. So again, Health and Human Services was a big part of this lift as well. Working with BID and getting donations from them, working with Father Bills. Again, we're always in close communication with Father Bills because, there's a vulnerable population in this community that we have to account for. And so the Father Bills shelter was without power for some time. So we had to, work with those folks and move them over to the Plymouth North High School as well to make sure that they're taken care of. So again, a lot of community effort, a lot of agencies participated, worked with the town in order, to make this, to mitigate this event as much as possible. And then we had to come up with a feeding plan. And so, we had, again, hundreds of first responders and DPW employees and others working around the clock. We had some DPW employees working on the first shift 30 hours, in a row. And one thing I have to say about the DPW is they only have one shift, right? So the fire department has 4 groups, 4 shifts. Police department has 5 shifts. And so those folks can rotate in and out. The DPW doesn't have that ability. They don't have the ability to rotate in and out. And so I can tell you personally, when I was in the director's office and, this was like hour 30 into the event, there was some guys walking in and one guy had his head on the table. Another guy walked in. You could tell he was exhausted. He put his radio on the table and said, I got to go home. And so they only have one shift. And I know folks can, they get upset when they don't see their road plowed right away. But we went from 108 pieces of equipment on day one. By the end of day 2, we were down to like 30 pieces of equipment. That's because of just fatigue, started to set in. And so again, the cavalry helped us by coming through MEMA to help backfill the loss of positions that we were losing with our own DPW and contractors, not just our DPW staff, but the contractors, the 65 contractors as well. And so getting back to the feeding plan, we would, power was out in this community, but we knew that we had to feed the folks that were helping respond. And so when we reached out to our contacts about restaurants and others to try to get them open, there was no availability, there was no accessibility. So we called a former select board member, Charlie Bledsoe, who I think knows every restaurant on the South Shore. And we said, Charlie, we need to feed our staff, what can you do? And so, he reached out to Jimmy, who owns Anna's right on the waterfront, who also owns Kingston House of Pizza, who happened to have power. And so for 2 days in a row, Jimmy, the owner of Anna's, was able to feed our staff for 2 days. So we have really appreciated him stepping up, and then we were able to work with others. I know Mr. Quinto donated food on day 4 of the storm. So we appreciate the community coming in and supporting, everybody who's out there, trying to restore this community back to normal. So I'll leave you with this. I called my grandson because I missed him during the course of the storm. I told him I would see him this coming weekend, and he asked what was going on. I said there was snow piles, it's taller than him, and I wouldn't see him till the end of the weekend. And he wanted to see me before that. And so I said how much snow was out there. His response was, "Why can't they just plow?" And I feel like that was the sentiment of the community during this entire event. 65,000 adults were just saying, "Why can't they just plow?" So my 6-year-old grandson got it. And I think the community understood it as well. But again, we did the best that we could with the resources that we have, and we'll continue to do that. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions from the board? All right. Thank you, Derek. Sure. Do you have other items in your town manager's report, or would you like us to move on?
I'll hold those for maybe later.
Okay, great. We'll move on. Our polar bear has been waiting very patiently, so I'll ask the Jordan Hospital Club Polar Plunge to come on up. Jordan the bear.
Thank you so much, and really thank you to the town. What an extraordinary job you've all done, everybody here. I mean, I know what my driveway looks like, and the whole town looked like that. And to be able to come here tonight and park, it's tremendous. So thank you very, very much. Really extraordinary, extraordinary effort. So with that, we have Jordan. This is going for the Jordan's Polar Plunge. This will be the 24th plunge, and over that, all the money raised goes to benefit the JHC Cancer Center at BID Plymouth. And for the past 23 years, almost $1.8 million has been raised from the community in $10, $20, $30 denominations. And it's really extraordinary that this is a true community event. It's like a fun-filled day at the beach in March, first Saturday of March. So it's next Saturday, or this coming Saturday, March 7th. We were saying you were so glad it wasn't last Saturday. Yeah.
This Saturday.
This is coming Saturday. The money raised as it goes to the Cancer Center this year, it's going to fund, to help to pay for a Cancer Survivors Day in the spring, as well as there's going to be a new oncology and infusion center at Cottage Park that's going to be spectacular, that's opening in the spring of 2027, which will really benefit the community greatly. And then also some new equipment for the breast center. So the money stays here in Plymouth, and it goes directly to help people who need these services. So it's this coming Saturday. We hope everyone will, walk down to Nelson's Beach and join us. Registration is still open, so there's plenty of time to sign up to take the plunge. It's quick. We've all been in. We go in every year, and it's for a great cause. So to register, it's jordanhospitalclub.org. We've got brochures right here. We'll happily hand them out. And the beach is really a festival feeling, right? People wear costumes. There's music. There's food. Mary Lou's provides, coffee.
Donated food.
Right, and hot chocolate, most everything. We try to get most everything donated so that, most of the money goes to the Cancer Center. And then there's an awards ceremony afterwards. We hand out trophies for best costumes and most money raised. So it's a wonderful community event. It's so well supported by the town. You talked about, they probably don't want to hear from me, about the DPW, and try to give them a break, but they're really doing an extraordinary job, and the Parks Department. So we really thank everybody, and thank you for this opportunity to share what's coming up on Saturday, March 7th.
And I think just one last thing. I think what's important to remember after doing this for 24 years, this will be our 24th year, we've realized how individual this event is, how much the town rallies. Anyone can participate. Everyone makes a difference. And you can show up on the beach, you can raise $60 and get a t-shirt, but it's all for something really close to home and something really wonderful. So please be involved. We're right on Nelson's Beach, and we'd love to see you all come down.
Thank you, folks. Again, that's jordanhospitalclub.org if you want to get on and sign up. Anything from the board on that? Ms. Iaquinto?
So a couple of us did the plunge last year, and it was really amazing. It really was a great experience. I'm not quite sure. Well, I was just going to say, I'm not quite sure about this year, because I'm happy to make a donation, but
So here's my letter.
I feel like there's still ice floating in the in the
What we
water
always
this
say,
week, so-
those of us who are familiar with this event, that if you would love to plunge, terrific. But if you don't, you could always pledge one of us.
Yeah.
And I'm never shy. I have no guilt at this point, especially the week before the plunge, to say, please support us and donate to our campaign.
I think that's what I'll do.
We'll leave
this
the
year.
information. Please come again, though.
Thank you, folks. We'll move on to licenses. We have a few one-day wine and malt licenses, and two amplified music permits. Pleasure of the board.
Move them as presented.
Mr. Quintal moves them as a group. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Iaquinto seconds. Any discussion? Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Mr. Quintal?
Yes.
Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
And myself, yes. We'll move on to administrative notes. I'm going to pull item number 4. The chair of our Natural Resources and Coastal Beaches Committee would like to speak to that. Is there anything else that folks want to pull out? Board's pleasure on items 1 through 3.
Move 1, 2, and 3.
Mr. Quintal moves as a group. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Iaquinto seconds. Discussion? Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Mr. Quintal?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
Myself, yes. On item number 4, Everett Malaguti, Chair of the Natural Resources and Coastal Beaches Committee.
Thank you, Everett Malaguti, Chair, Natural Resource and Coastal Beaches. I thank you, Mr. Golden, for actually letting me speak on this. I wanted to speak in opposition of the rate increases for Long Beach, even though they are a minimal $5. The actual information that was given within the packet tonight that shows the actual possible deficit doesn't also include the earnings that are still in retainings that the revolving fund has, which is roughly around $500,000 or so. And we usually use that for build-up so we can have it for grant matching and other operational issues. But we have been seeing a little bit of banner growth in the past couple of years for sticker sales and also the funds that are accumulated in there. And I also wanted to clarify that the amounts that are being shown were for fiscal 25. We don't really have fiscal 26 yet in there because it's not done, but we also have a little bit of conflict based about looking at the fiscal year for the amounts and when the actual stickers are, since we did change 3 years ago to the stickering being available the first of the year and going through a calendar year cycle for the purchasing instead of through a fiscal year. So it sort of is a 26, 27 look at when you look at how the actual funding will be derived through the actual sticker sales on that. And I believe that there is sufficient funding available at the moment to keep the Long Beach stickers the same price. If they did need to look at increasing the rates to look at potential deficits, I think that the raising of the daily pass, which was risen a few years ago to compensate for the deficit funding that was being used for the recreational staff, lifeguards, and also partial DPW to backfill on that. I believe that would be a better and a beneficial part, since the daily passes are not necessarily used by the residents of the town as much. And the Long Beach stickers and also the annual passes should be the same for all the brackets on there. And I think they should not increase for this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malaguti. Pleasure of the board on item number 4. Hearing nope, Mr. Cohen?
To approve.
Mr. Cohen makes a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Quintal seconds. Discussion? Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Quintal?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
Myself, no. We'll move on now to public comment. Is there anyone in the room who would like to register a public comment with the board? Mr. Lyden?
Steve Lyden, Chairman of the Visitors Service Board. Tonight we had our meeting, and it was the last meeting that will be attended by Lee Filson, who is retiring. She was the director of Sea Plymouth, and she's been with us for 7 years, and she's done a fantastic job promoting Plymouth. Her new replacement will start probably the beginning of the week, And Lee, we're going to miss you very much. And the other thing I'd like to say, like Mr. Brandisi said, I think the DPW did a great job. My street was cleared enough to have one car go by, so if an emergency vehicle came, they would be able to respond. I think they did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lyden. Is there anyone else in the room who'd like to give a public comment? You can speak on Fremont now if you'd like. I have a funny feeling that someone may ask to open up public comment again during that section, so I'll leave it up to you if you'd like to speak now or then.
Okay, I'm Connie Mellahorse, and I'm a resident of Fremont Street, a longtime resident, actually probably the longest living resident of Fremont Street. So I've seen many changes on that street. I was the initiator of the original petition to make Fremont Street one-way due to safety concerns. I've seen a lot of changes. Years ago, when the street was dug up to put new pipes in, the street was made narrower so the sidewalks could be made wider. So that impeded the flow of traffic. And then the lights were installed at the bottom of South Street. That also added some issues with safety. There have been a number of accidents at the top of the street because of all these issues. So I have before you the petition signed by the residents of Fremont Street who wish to make that street permanently one way. And please note that the signatures on that petition are all Fremont Street residents. There are only about 4 or 5 residents on that street who did not sign. There was one signer of the original petition who I was not able to get in touch with, but he was also in favor of one way. So while it may be inconvenient, and believe me, it's inconvenient for me too, to have to go down Fremont Street, up and around if I want to head south. But to me, safety far outweighs the inconvenience that it causes those people who are not for the one way. Initially, when I had this petition going forward, I talked to the fire chief who's now retired, and he was in favor of making it one way because that would allow anytime an emergency vehicle had to come to our street that there would be a way for it to get down. Right now, well, prior to the storm, there are cars that are parked along one side of the street and then the other side not. So when there are cars parked on one side of the street, there's only room for one vehicle to go up or down. And a vehicle wanting to come up or go down and another one coming up, you have to find a place to pull over so that can happen. Now, the storm has even exacerbated that problem. As you know, a lot of streets were affected, but ours was affected as well. So I would strongly urge the select board to make this one way a permanent solution. Safety far outweighs those of us or any of us who are being inconvenienced by this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to give a public comment? Please come on up to the microphone.
Thank you. Thank you to the board, and thanks to folks for being here. I'm a resident of Fremont Street. And
Could you just say your name for the record?
yes, Brian Cochran,
Thank you.
resident at 18 Fremont Street, a single-family home. My observation is that, well, let me back up. Issues about safety, I don't understand what the safety issue is, that the safety gets better by making it a one-way as opposed to a two-way. And as we just heard, the one car might be coming up, one car coming down, one pulls over, everybody's going slow, everybody waves, it's wonderful. And it works. It absolutely works. So this issue of multiple accidents and lights and whatever, I just don't understand that. So that's all I would say. But it affects those other streets. And that street on Lincoln Street with that school, kids are going to get hurt. So we want to talk about safety, what goes down after it goes one way. Old school, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who'd like to give a public comment? Is there anyone online? Oh, come on up to the microphone. If one of my colleagues asks for that, I will reopen public comment at that time.
My name's Edward Cushing. I live at Fremont Street, and we've been there since 1977. And this has always been a two-way street. There's no sign of any sign of accidents at the end. People are very cautious on how they get out. I think it's more of a detriment going down our street one way to Union and come up Lincoln. And you try to do that when school's in session. Or if you go down Union and come down by Town Brook, mothers are there waiting to get their kids dropped off. And that's tough to get by that too. So for me, I mean, 49 years going up and down the street has been fine. I don't see, like someone said, why fix something that's not broke? I mean, I think it's a wonderful thing to be able to do it. It's a nice street. People are good there. And I think it's wise to keep it the way it was. I don't want to see a change. I want to see it two-way like it's always been. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak?
Thank you. I'm Cheryl Toomey. I live at 16 Fremont Street, and I just wanted to add to that, you know, through all efforts and everything, it's appreciated, but coming down as well, going the one way that way, especially down onto Union the other morning, I came around. You know, the school, they have a lot with us, with anybody going up Lincoln Street at that time in the morning. It was like 9:15. They have to park. I know one of the moms with the kids, they have to park and get out and walk the kids up, which is fine. But there was one truck parked heading towards Stevens Field. And so you could not get through at all. And the big thing was, first of all, emergency. But then on another day as well, you know, to not go up Lincoln Street, then to go to Water and try to get out that way. It's, you know, or then they say go to Leiden Street. But if I want to go south or to the hospital, why do I want to have to go all the way to Leiden Street and impact downtown to go south? But thank you very much.
Thank you. Did you want to speak, sir?
All right. So my name is Greg Krantz. I live at 17 Lincoln Street. And I think we need to consider the whole neighborhood. I appreciate that some residents on Fremont Street, want the one-way street. And I understand the reasons. It's not optimal, to have it as a two-way street. But you have to consider the whole neighborhood. There are 4 streets coming into the neighborhood and only 2 leaving. And the 2 that are leaving, one is Lincoln Street, which is really a disaster during school drop-off and pickup times. And then you have Union Street, which this summer is going to be a really difficult place to exit the neighborhood, given all the summer tourism traffic on Union Street. So for those reasons, I'm definitely in favor of keeping it a two-way. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who'd like to give a public comment? Anyone online? I can't see the name. Oh, Len Levin. Mr. Levin, please go ahead.
Hang on, let me get, my camera didn't come on. Hang on, why didn't my camera come on? Well, that's okay, you don't have to see me. My name is Len Levin. I live in the Pine Hills, and I was planning on coming to Town Hall to make my comments this evening, but due to the weather, I decided it would be better for my safety to stay home. I'm here to speak to you tonight about the DVC. full disclosure, I served as the Secretary Treasurer of the DVC for the past 2.5 years. I stepped down from the committee at the end of 2025, and I wanted to share my reasons why I stepped down. One was the politicization of the committee by the previous chairperson, who is the current select board representative, the unfettered spending, and in an unprecedented move, a department head was appointed to the committee and is now the chairperson. It is my opinion that the recent reorganization committee was a charade. If you want to see all this for yourself, the DVC committee meetings were recorded on Zoom for the last 2.5 years. The committee does not support the students' participation in the trips to Japan. It's been an issue with many members. For the first time during my involvement with the committee, we decided to allocate funds to compensate for a little bit over less than half of their cost for last year's trip. The monies came from 3 sources. One was the airfare by 2 of the government's delegation, a small contribution from the Rotary Club, and then the committee voted to basically use $500 of the committee's funds for each student. I'm not sure anybody knew about this. It was never discussed in the public. The annual budget of the DVC is about $30,000. What I mean by that, they get a $10,000 contribution from the town, a $10,000 contribution from the school department, and a $10,000 contribution from the Visitor Service Board. Based on information I received from the finance director, the balance of the DVC account as of the end of the year was $55,000. In my opinion, the only funding source it makes sense is the town. The school department doesn't make sense due to the lack of support for the students, and the VSB does not make sense due to the fact that not many people know about the relationship with Shishikahama. There's been no effort to publicize the relationship, and I wonder why. I feel this committee should have a complete review of its charter, makeup, funding, and spending. I also think the Select Board Policy for Liaisons Committee should be reviewed, especially when it pertains to leadership positions and being a voting member of a committee. Later in tonight's agenda, you have a slate of applicants for the membership on the committee. I would encourage you to delay this appointment till the review is completed. This is not sour grapes for me. I take great pride in the work I did while serving on the committee. I did the majority of the work planning for the last 2 years' events. As a resident and a taxpayer in these tight financial times, I think all discretionary spending should be scrutinized.
Mr. Levin, you've concluded your 3 minutes. I'll give you an additional minute to conclude your remarks.
Okay, I have a sentence and a half. I would hope the funding for 2027 be withheld, as the committee has ample funds for this year's visit by the sister city. If you would like a copy of these comments, I'd be glad to provide them to become part of the official record. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I think I see, is it William Harding? Mr. Harding, you have the floor.
Okay, yes. I'd like to speak in favor of keeping Fremont as a one-way. And I just cite a couple of reasons. One is safety, which we're all concerned with. And with a one-way, it's easy and safe to turn into Fremont Street from either direction on Sandwich, which is not true if it's a two-way street. It's always a chance of meeting someone rushing out of Fremont. Also, the speed in the street has slowed, in my view, since it's been one way, because there is no rush, there's no competition, and because the street is no longer a convenient cut-through for people who are off to other places, and which has led to the street being quieter and becoming, returning to being a neighborhood street where, and I've lived there for many years as well, and I have 3 generations of my family have lived there and some still live there. And I think in one way, it's become significantly quieter and safer. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last person online, let me give the online person, I'm not going to give iPhone 95 the opportunity to speak. Please enter your name properly and we'll come back to you. Mr. Tavares, the floor is yours.
Wasn't planning on speaking here, so hopefully I keep it under 3 minutes. I agree with Mr. Lemon. I do, Matt Tavares. I also sit on the Distinguished Visitors Committee. That people should go back and look at those Zoom meetings. I think what'll be interesting is that you'll find that Mr. Levin voted in favor of everything he just railed against, including the past chair. So that's interesting to me. But I encourage everyone to go back and look at those meetings. You're always invited to our meetings. We actually have one tomorrow night, and you can attend via Zoom. The link's on the town website. Thanks.
Only 41 seconds. Great job. Has iPhone 95 corrected their name? All right. Is there anyone else who would like to give a public comment in the room? All right. We'll move on then. Next on the agenda is the foreclosure disposition for 51 Cypress Street. We're joined by the folks from the Treasurer Collector's Office.
Good evening, Board. I'm Patricia Meechan, Treasurer Collector. Tonight, we wanted to bring before you to have you vote on the recent foreclosure of the property located at 51 Cypress Street, but also to inform you of the new changes to some legislation pertaining to tax title and foreclosures. So prior to your vote, I'd like to just fill you in with some information, like what your options are and what that would mean and would require of the town. So due to the recent legislation changes, there's a new section 64A that requires cities and towns return excess equity to the former owners or interested parties. The cities and towns are now required to send a certified notice to the former owner within 60 days that the judgment enters. There's a 30-day period where the former owner can appeal. After that 30 days expires, then the town has 30 days to decide whether they want to retain the property for municipal. Some of the changes now, where we used to auction the properties off, we are required to list it with a real estate agent or broker if we're looking to sell the property. If we want to retain the property, we have to hire a licensed appraiser. And the town has 120 days once that decision's made to hire an appraiser if we want to keep it for municipal purposes. The appraiser must be licensed and independent from the town, and also the appraiser must not be an employee of the town or hold any elected office within the town, and must be hired through the bidding process of Chapter 30B. Upon completion, the appraisal, the town has 30 days to prepare a written report with an accounting of the amount owed to the town and the amount of surplus to be paid to the former owner. In determining the surplus, the town would deduct any taxes and interest at the time of foreclosure, court costs, legal fees, the cost of the appraisal, and any post-judgment costs. Should the town elect to sell the property, we would have 180 days from the date of judgment becoming final to hire a licensed realtor or broker. Again, must be independent from the town, and the realtor or broker must not be an employee of the town or hold elected office within the town, and again, must be hired through going out to bid under Chapter 30B. Upon the sale of the property becoming final, the town would have 30 days, again, to provide a written report of an accounting of the amount owed. Pretty much the same cost. It's we're going to deduct any taxes and interest at the time of foreclosure, court costs, legal fees, the cost to hire a realtor or broker, and the post-judgment costs. If after 12 months of listing the property with a realtor or broker, the property does not sell at that time, then we're able to move forward with a public auction. One of the things before you vote to make your final decision is I wanted to inform you that should the town decide to retain the property for municipal purposes, the funding must be in place. So we would have to return the excess equity, so the town would have to come up with that difference, for the interested parties to claim any excess equity. And I just wanted to also let you know that in dealing with our tax title attorneys, it was in their opinion to bring this before the select board to make that final determination on how we plan to dispose of the property. My recommendation is to sell the property. I'm not sure. As you see, I believe that you have before you, there's a tax title workup of what was outstanding on this property at the time of foreclosure, which was $55,401.76. Yep. So part of our process is we circulate it around to the different departments to see if there's an interest in retaining it for municipal purposes. We have done that. There does not appear to be any interest in this property.
Mr. Cohen?
Was it shown to the various elements within the town that work on affordable housing?
Yes.
And who was that?
So I know that we had Paul
Nachiavelli.
That's the redevelopment authority.
Yep.
Any other housing elements within the community? Within the town?
Does Peggy sign off still?
Peggy, yes, she signed.
Peggy Whalen from Community
Yep,
Development.
there's not any interest. I think what changes it because of this legislation change prior to that.
I understand. I was just trying to make note of, it is a residential unit. And,
Yes.
we are in the midst of a housing crisis. And when the town does come across a building that might make, an affordable unit, the cost of, getting the appraiser and compensating the owner in terms of what is owed to the town, and then turning and making it a deed restricted unit for affordable housing and tapping one of the entities in the community that have housing money within the town of Plymouth, which the Community Preservation Committee does have money for housing, and so doesn't the Housing Trust. So there is funding sources within the institution of Town Hall and in the town of Plymouth where there is housing money available if an opportunity comes up. I'm not saying that this is the best opportunity to exercise that, but I think as we embarked on this new Mass General determination of foreclosures under Chapter 60, we might want to think about how a unit might be beneficial for affordable housing. I know we run these by fire and police and all these different departments, whether or not they want it, but maybe we can re-examine how we position it or offer it to housing entities within Town Hall. So just something to think about. I'm not saying that this is an optimum opportunity for that, but I do think that we should modify, as the state is asking us to, we should try to modify how we look at affordable housing opportunities within the town of Plymouth.
In the past, we have had some foreclosures that, it was beneficial to pursue. But I think with this change in the legislation, I think that we're going to find it's not so affordable.
Well,
so
we can make that analysis on a case-by-case basis.
I understand.
Based on information that we could gather around the unit, because in the efforts to make affordable units, it can get quite costly. It's not an inexpensive endeavor, but this might be something that might work to our advantage because there is money owed. So there is there's an initiative to to examine it that way. That's what I'm indicating.
Anyone else? Pleasure of the board.
I would make a motion to support the sale of this property.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Quintel seconds. Discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Mr. Cohan?
Abstain.
Mr. Quintel?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is an appointment to the Board of Health. We have one term which is expiring June 30th, 2028. We had 5 applicants. One has withdrawn. The first applicant is Kate Jenkins Brown. Is Ms. Jenkins Brown in the room? Come on up and introduce yourself. Just for the record, the candidate that withdrew was Barnaby W. Basanquet. Ms. Jenkins Brown, please
Kate
introduce
Jenkins
yourself.
Brown. Been a resident of Plymouth for 7 years, resident of South Shore my entire life. I'm interested in contributing back to the community and with a background in environmental science, population health, health communication. I figured this would be the optimal position for me to attempt to fill.
Very good, thank you. Are there questions for my colleagues? Mr. Canty?
Thank you. Is there anything that the Board of Health is currently doing that you'd like to see them keep doing if you were to be appointed? Or anything that they're not doing that you'd like to see them start doing?
I think that there's a greater opportunity for health education, campaigning. Of course, as you know, at the federal level, there's some questions about vaccines and immunizations, and that's something that I think is a very important public health message that should be presented to the population so they can make an informed decision. I won't say what my informed decision would be, but certainly providing them with the adequate information to make that decision, and to, in any way that we can, assist in the pursuit of vaccination in order to ensure that our community is safe.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Iaquinto?
Ms. Jenkins, have you, excuse me, have you had an opportunity to attend any of the Board of Health meetings?
I have not had an opportunity, I'm sorry to say.
Any further questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next applicant is Catherine Ann Marini. Ms. Marini is the current alternate member of the Board of Health. Come on up.
Hello. Catherine Marini, Plymouth resident and seeking a permanent position for now on the Board of Health.
Questions from my colleagues? Mr. Canty?
Thank you. Is there anything, Ms. Marini, that the Board of Health is currently doing that you'd like to see them keep doing? Or something that they're not doing that you'd like to see them start doing were you to be appointed to a full position on the board?
We currently are working on the nicotine regulations of sales and the kratom ban as well. So those are two really important things that obviously we want to conclude and finish. But as far as continuing doing, we have done a really good job, I feel, so far. Various members bringing forward things that we think should be discussed regularly, like we did hand washing for flu season so that people in the community have a little more access and education to health.
Okay,
thank you.
Other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next applicant is Nicole Holmes. Ms. Holmes, if you wouldn't mind coming up.
Hi, my name is Nicole. I've been a resident of Plymouth for 14 years. I've been a nurse for 19. In that time, I was a clinical nurse manager at Harbor Community Health, and I did a lot of work with the underserved population. And I wanted to join the board to make more accessible healthcare and, you know, not taking things away that the South Shore and this community lacks, and, you know, just paying attention to what services may be leaving the community that we need.
Thank you. Any questions from my colleagues? Mr. Canty?
Ms. Holmes, is there anything that the Board of Health is currently doing that you'd like to see them keep doing, or anything that they're not doing that you'd like to see them start doing were you to be appointed?
I think that my biggest thing that I would like to see is probably a lot of communication with the hospitals. I spent some time at BID and just making sure as our hospital grows and changes that they're not taking away key programs and things that the community needs.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Sorry. Have you had an opportunity to attend any of the Board of Health meetings?
I have not. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our last applicant is Dan Sullivan. Is Mr. Sullivan in the room? Is Mr. Sullivan online? Okay. So there are 4 active applicants, 3 of whom who have appeared in person here tonight. Is there any discussion about the applicants? I will say I formerly sat on the Board of Health. I think Ms. Marini's time as the alternate is invaluable experience that I think will serve her well in the role, so I plan to cast my vote in her favor. Is there any further discussion? All right, well, everyone gets 1 vote. I'll go down, I'll ask each board member for their vote, starting with Mr. Cohen. For whom do you vote?
Catherine Ann Moriarty.
Ms. Marini. Mr. Quintal.
Catherine Ann Marini.
Mr. Canty.
Catherine Ann Marini.
Ms. Iaquinto.
And Catherine Ann Marini.
And myself, Ms. Marini. Congratulations, you've been appointed to the Board of Health as a full member. I do believe you need to get sworn in as a full member. This will result in a vacancy for the alternate member. I would encourage our other applicants who have excellent credentials as well to apply when that comes up. And Ms. Anderton will coordinate that in the future. Our next item is an appointment to the Distinguished Visitors Committee. I'll first start by saying, given earlier comments, is there any desire among the board to postpone this appointment? Hearing and seeing none, I will call each of the applicants. This is a term that it's for 1 term. It's expiring June 30th, 2027, and it's for a citizen at large. We have Paul, Walter, 6 candidates, one of whom withdrew. Again, it was Barnaby Besanquet. The first applicant is Paul Walter Anderson. I don't believe Mr. Anderson is here. He informed us ahead of time that while he'd planned on attending our meeting last week, he's not able to make it this week due to a prior commitment, unless he's online. Excellent. The same goes for Terry Prescott Marshall. Terry was unable to make it due to a trip that I'm very jealous of. I believe they're fishing in the Florida Keys right now. Again, planned to attend last week, but the weather prevented that, and I don't believe Terry's online. All right. We'll move on to, I think it's Tomeo Buffalo Ellis. Come on up, Miss Ellis. Please introduce yourself to the board.
Good evening. My name is Tamio Buffalo Ellis. I am a resident here of Plymouth. Had 2 students who, one recently graduating from the Plymouth Public Schools. And actually, I did have one of my children who did participate in the Distinguished Visitors trip in 2019. From a parent's perspective, having a child attend, it was a wonderful experience. We actually kept in contact with our host family in Japan for several years, and because they had many interests. Granted, my son is now in college, but it was still a wonderful opportunity for him to participate. For me personally, I also have family lineage there. I actually have Japanese ancestry, so my son going there, it was also an educational experience for him as well, and very much appreciated from my perspective. My background, I do a lot in nonprofit work. I've been a director of a nonprofit industry as well as a director. I ran and operated a nonprofit for 15 years. So I've also worked with the schools very closely when my children were there, various committees. Actually, I still participate in a couple of committees because I'm committed to not only student advancement, but as well as community involvement and cultural awareness as well. So other than that, if anyone has any questions, I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there other questions from the board? Mr. Canty?
Hi. Is there anything that the Distinguished Visitors Committee is currently doing that you'd like to see them keep doing, or anything that they're not currently doing that you'd like to see them start doing, or you to be appointed?
As with any committee, I think foundation work is already there. So anytime anyone comes in who's new, I myself would love to see what the foundation looks like, and then be able to grasp how and what we can do to better improve or make more streamlined than what is being done. I think our students know about it, but also my son did go in 2019. That was before the pandemic. And that was the last time of age for him. And even though my youngest child came up, I know COVID restrictions still prevented her time-wise, based on the grades that the students can participate in. Unfortunately, because of COVID, she fell out of that pool of opportunity. But nonetheless, I still think the foundation work is there. I'm a firm believer that there's never a perfect system. It's perfect intentions to get something to work in the manner that can address whatever concerns that people on the outside have, and as well as the people who see things going on behind the scenes can work to make better.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Mr. Cohen?
Tamio. Yes, Tamio. Yes.
You indicated that you had been involved with the school.
Yes.
And you have children in the school system. Do you still, I did miss that. Did you still have children in the school
No,
system?
my youngest graduated last year.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next applicant is Mark Delfeld. Is Mr. Delfeld in the audience? Online? Okay. Our next applicant is Charles Nilosek. Mr. Nilosek, please join us at the microphone.
Good evening. I'm Chuck Nilosek, Charles, I guess you can call me, and looking to throw my name into the ring for this. I'm the founder of Plymouth Rock TV, a streaming network on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, global platform like a Netflix for New England, and have actually been a distinguished visitor in the nation of Croatia, and have gone through shooting with a local chef, doing documentary style programming, and I'm really about storytelling and getting the word out, and I guess like the common question about what could be done. Now, I don't know too much about the organization as far as, or the committee as far as what I've looked into online, but I would like to see more media, more video production, more opportunities to let the community know about what the program is and the value, and hear stories from families that have experienced it and have had a lot of good learning experiences, and for me that is precious, and that's really been the goal of my life. I'm currently teaching media at Mashpee High School. My wife teaches here in the Plymouth area, and I am on the media committee for the Plymouth Rotary, and have really brought a lot of that recent philosophy into bringing the Rotary's messaging and their media into the new digital age. And with the online auction that we're doing right now, we've had tremendous increase in visibility, and I think that is probably where I would direct my attention.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, this is for a single term. It expires June 30th, 2027. We had potentially 5 applicants. Only 2 appeared here tonight. I'll call each of the board members and ask them to cast a single vote. I'll start with Ms. Iaquinto.
My vote is for Miss Buffalo Ellis.
Mr. Canty,
Ms. Buffalo Ellis.
Mr. Quintal,
Charles Nilisek.
Mr. Cohen,
Miss Buffalo Ellis.
and I will also cast my vote for Ms. Buffalo Ellis. Congratulations, you've been appointed to the Distinguished Visitors Committee. Please get sworn in with the town clerk, and thank you to all who applied. The next item on our agenda is the Fremont update. James Downey is going to be joining us from the DPW. Yep, Mr. Cohen.
Just a quick note. Obviously, I live on Fremont Street, lived there all my life, pretty much. And obviously on the select board, road commissioner. But I do feel as if I should abstain from this vote. I think that obviously I just thought about it long and hard. Obviously, earlier in the process, I did sign some petitions before I became a select board member. But I think in this capacity, I would defer to my colleagues to make the decision, because I think that living on the street and being a select board member, I just thought about it long and hard. I know some of my residents will be happy, some will be upset. I think that's been the history of the street when it comes to Bill. But I do want to abstain from that vote, and I'll let my board members deliberate. And thank you for your time.
That is your right, sir. Mr. Downey, the floor is yours.
All right. I would like to thank everybody for having me here tonight. For the record, my name is James Downey, the Assistant DPW Director, and I'm here to talk about Fremont Street and the one-way pilot program. So the Fremont Street pilot program pretty much came in response to a resident petition back in 2022, as well as the recommendations from the Plymouth Center and North Plymouth Circulation and Mobility Study. The Department of Public Works proposed and implemented a pilot program on December 8th, 2025 to designate Fremont Street as a one-way in the easterly direction from Sandwich to Union. This presentation will summarize that pilot program, including our observations over the last 60-plus days, along with resident input, feedback, and DPW recommendations for moving forward. So a little bit of history, and as just stated, that it was with the resident petitions submitted back in 2022 to the Select Board. This petition was signed by about 80% of the property owners along Fremont Street, and stated that there was insufficient room for two-way traffic and had difficulties getting out of their driveways with minor vehicle accidents over the years, as well as stating that the traffic signal at the intersection of Sandwich and South has made the intersection of Fremont and Sandwich more difficult to exit. After the petition, there was a study that the town had hired GPI to do the Plymouth Center and North Plymouth Circulation and Mobility Study, which started in 2023 and went to 2025, which compiled input from residents, the DPW, and GPI's own engineering observations. This study made various recommendations throughout the study area, including the pilot program for converting Fremont Street to one-way. The petition and the study were presented to the Plymouth Parking and Traffic Task Force, and the Park and Traffic Task Force and DPW agreed with the recommendation for the pilot. So in October, we came and DPW presented that proposal to the Select Board, and it was approved by the board for a 60-day trial. On November 20th, the DPW put together a proposed signage plan and sent notification letters to the area residents of Fremont, Stevens Lane, Union Street, and Lincoln about the upcoming one-way traffic plan. December 8th, 2025, DPW implemented the new signage and observed closely during the changeover, speaking with residents and drivers and watching vehicle movements, making sure that the signage was properly in place for clear direction. After a period of time, on December 31st, a follow-up letter was sent to residents asking for their input and comments and notifying them of an upcoming public meeting, which was held on January 12th, 2026. We also collected traffic data along Fremont Street. So traffic counters were installed on Fremont to collect data, including the number of cars, direction, and speed before and after the implementation of the one-way pattern. In general, the total number of cars traveling on Fremont decreased, as would be expected, since approximately half the traffic is technically no longer using the street. In regards to travel speeds, the data collected also showed that the speed at which 85% of the vehicles travel at or below decreased from the average of 23 miles per hour before the one-way to about 21 miles an hour after the one-way. In addition, a representative from DPW observed traffic firsthand, watching traffic flow during various times of the day, and no traffic flow issues were observed on Fremont Street itself. Lincoln and Union, unfortunately, the same cannot be said for these two streets. For a short period every day, traffic does back up during school drop-off and pickup for the elementary school. So for Lincoln Street, it was severely impacted for about 14 to 18 minutes a day between the hours of 8:45 a.m. and 9:03 a.m. Union Street as well showed backups in both directions from Lincoln Street for about 7 to 9 minutes during the hours of 8:46 to 8:56 a.m. During the afternoon pickup times, there were no observed backups onto Union, and traffic on Lincoln Street was observed to be slow but passable. It appeared that more parents were parking their cars either on Lincoln, Union, or Sandwich and walking versus the rolling drop-off in the morning, which caused considerable impact and backups. All that being said, the observed backups onto Union Street during the 8:45 to 9 a.m. period could impact drivers when looking to exit Fremont Street, Stevens Lane, and Stevens Field during that period with the one-way option. It is a limited duration of time, but noticeable. Therefore, the DPW has reached out to the school department to set up a meeting to discuss the school-related traffic issues, but DPW still needs to find time to do so. Residential feedback. We did hear some already from people in the audience and online, but as mentioned before, the DPW solicited resident feedback via direct mailings and a scheduled public meeting. The public meeting was held and attended by over 20 residents from Fremont Street, Lincoln, Stevens Lane, and Precinct 3 committee members. With those in attendance, it was noticed that 7 properties with 9 residents were in favor of the one-way traffic pattern, and there were 7 properties with 11 residents that were not in favor and supported returning to two-way. The Precinct 3 committee members at the meeting spoke in support of the input in the process, but did not indicate a preference. In total, DPW also received 18 individual comment sheets, 8 emails, 1 phone call, 1 on-site conversation, and 1 signed petition asking for two-way. The petition had 46 signatures, 21 representing the 12 local properties, 24 signatures representing 16 other properties throughout town, and 1 non-resident signature. All in all, it should be noted that some residents have submitted multiple forms of feedback, which is to be expected, including comment emails, attending public meetings, and/or signing the petition. When compiling all the input, approximately 13 properties on Fremont Street and adjacent streets were in favor of the one-way. There were 16 properties on Fremont and adjacent streets that were not in favor of the one-way. And there was one resident who had no preference regarding the traffic pattern, but commented on the new signage. To kind of compile and then summarize the pros and cons of each, this slide, those in favor of the one-way traffic typically noted that they felt that there was an increase in safety at Sandwich Street intersection when increase in safety at the Sandwich Street intersection when backing out of their driveways. Decrease in traffic volumes and a decrease in vehicle speeds. Several residents commented that the street is now quieter and more of a neighborhood street instead of a two-way cut-through. Several residents indicated that the extra time travel was a minor inconvenience when compared to the increase in safety. They suggested utilizing Leiden Street with its traffic light to access Sandwich Street. And then school traffic has been an issue for a long time and is not related to the change on Fremont Street. Those opposed to the one-way traffic typically noted the lack of options for accessing Fremont Street is not good. Traffic backup and delay on Union and Lincoln were a major concern for travel time and emergency access. During the time of the original one-way petition, the Stevens Field cut-through had not been closed yet, further limiting travel options. Very difficult to go south on Sandwich Street with the one-way. Difficult left turns from either Lincoln or Water, and the traffic light at South contributes to difficulties at Lincoln Street, and considerable increase in travel time if utilized Leiden Street. It was also noted that the one-way pilot period is being undertaken during the lowest traffic volumes period for the year, and that the school traffic has been an issue for a long time, but with no other option, less likely to avoid traveling during those times. So with all that in mind, DPW came up with some options for moving forward. So keeping everything in mind, the original ask, the traffic study, the 60-day pilot, and input from the public, the DPW feels there are several options at this time for Fremont Street. 1, to extend the trial period of the one-way. 2, you could make the one-way traffic pattern permanent. 3, you can reverse the one-way traffic pattern in the opposite direction for a trial basis. 4, you can reinstate the two-way traffic as previously established. 5, reinstate the two-way traffic with no parking on either side of the street. Or, option 3, reinstate the two-way traffic with no parking on one side and stripe parking on the opposite side. I can go into a little detail of each of those options. So for extending the trial period for the one-way pilot program, this would allow DPW additional time to observe during different times of the year and discuss with the school department the traffic concerns associated with the drop-off pickup, realizing based on this feedback received, the percent of residents who were opposed to the one-way are likely to remain opposed. Option 2, make permanent the one-way traffic pattern. This option seems to address the safety concerns of the original petition. However, the school-related traffic issue and the limited observation period are valid concerns to further evaluate the one-way before making a decision. 3, reverse the one-way pattern in the opposite direction. This option was mentioned at the public hearing, but did not find favor and is not recommended by DPW, primarily due to the difficulties of getting out onto Sandwich Street and the potential impact on emergency response. 4, reinstate the two-way traffic as previously established. This option would not address any safety concerns of the residents and not recommended without additional measures. Option 5 would be to reinstate the two-way traffic with no parking on either side. This option would increase the effective width of the road, providing more room for easier travel. However, at the public meeting, no residents were in favor, and this would have the biggest impact on parking. Option 6, reinstate the two-way traffic with no parking on one side and stripe parking spaces on the opposite side. With going back to two-way traffic, consideration can be given to allowing parking on one side and striping parking on the other. This would help provide increased sight distance for driveways and more unobstructed space for cars to pull over for easier alternating traffic. So what is the DPW's recommendation? We would recommend option 1, which would be to extend the one-way pilot program to include a full year of data, approximately 9 more months. This would allow DPW time to discuss the traffic concerns with the school drop-off pickup with the school department and allow for observations of the one-way traffic pattern during various other times of year, particularly late spring, summer. Alternatively, if two-way traffic is preferred, then DPW would recommend option 6, the two-way traffic flow with no parking on the northern side and striping parking on the southern side to reduce vehicle conflict between traveling vehicles and to reduce crowding of abutters' driveways. That's the end of the presentation, and I can answer any questions, concerns, or comments. And then we would look for a vote at the end.
Thank you, James. Questions from the board? Mr. Canty?
James, can you go back one?
Sure.
So you've got these two options, but does the department have a preferred recommendation?
So it would be my opinion that our preferred option would be option 1, which would be to extend the pilot to get a full year's worth of data and to have time to talk with the school department to see if there's anything we can do in regards to the troubles on Lincoln and Union.
And what was community response to, you said that option 5, no parking on the street, was not favored. What was the level of feedback about having the parking, option 6?
So that did come up at the meeting, and I do believe it was again about 50-50. I think everybody who was in favor of the two-way supported this option, but those that favored one-way didn't really cast a vote. So I do believe there were 20 properties at the meeting, and I believe nine properties voted in favor of option 6.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Iaquinto?
James, thank you very much for this. I'm just curious, have you been involved in similar studies on other roads in town?
In regards to turning them into one-way?
Yeah.
So since I've been here, I know years back, Memorial Drive, which was already a one-way, they did reverse the direction, primarily to accommodate the new Gatra bus stop. So there was a little bit of a look into that option, but not nearly as much input or studying as this street. And then the other street I do recall was there was a section of Ocean View Ave by the park there off of Liberty. I think as part of the redesign of that park, it was mentioned and there was a public hearing where it was discussed, and then engineering took a vote and it went that way.
I was just curious about if a year-long observation period is typical when you're trying to make a decision like this, 60 days didn't seem like quite enough time. I understand why we asked for that shorter period as a trial, but it was, it's during that time of year, and, there are a lot of other complicating factors. So is a year something that you'd be more comfortable with?
I would think in this case, there's a couple things that separate this street, Fremont Street, from the other two. So the impacts here would probably be better understood over the course of a year. With Ocean View Ave, I don't believe there were many direct abutters to it, and it was primarily, they were more in agreement, and I think it had to do with summertime traffic for the park. With Memorial Drive, there wasn't much input either. But this one does kind of have its, good and bad that come with anything. So I think here it would be better to assess it over a longer period of time just to make sure we're not, we just keep it all in consideration.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
James, can you go back to the slide that had the backup times on Lincoln and Union? I guess I still don't understand. Is this comparatively longer than the normal backup that they would see during any school drop-off? Or is it just you measured this just during the 60-day period?
So we measured this during that period, but I would imagine if we measured it prior to the one-way or at any point in time, this would have probably been about the same. It would be my thought on that.
And you're are you a transportation engineer by trade?
Yep.
Transportation engineer. Yeah, I actually observed most
Come on
of
up.
this. I believe they'd be about the same. A lot of people were going down Fremont that direction anyway to loop around to go up to drop off in that direction. So I think that backup, I didn't observe it before that, but I think it would be similar to what it was. I don't necessarily, because they drop off going towards Sandwich Street on that side of the road. So I think that would be similar to what it was. But it's just more pronounced now because you can't get out Fremont the other way.
So it's not like they had been backed up for 15 minutes prior and we're adding another 15 minutes on top of that?
No, I think that's just what it is because of the school. But if you're trying to leave Fremont with it being one way, you have to go down Union Street now. You can't go Fremont to Sandwich. So it affects them more now.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions from the board? Pleasure of the board. Mr. Canty?
I would make a motion that we do option 1, I think it was, if we could go back to the, which is the extending the trial period. I feel personally, I think while having a shorter trial period gives some data, particularly where Stevens Field is right there, like when the school shuts off, Stevens Field will turn on. And having that information, I think, would be beneficial. It'll also give more residents more time to adjust to the traffic pattern because there are some people that may not come down this street all that often. And so that may be causing some of the consternation. And also, in the event that it would also give the neighbors more of an opportunity to completely assess how essentially a year of their lives was impacted positively or negatively by the change. And because I do think that some that may be in favor of a two-way may still have strong opinions about the reduction in parking. So having more data would help make an informed decision, and having more time would help residents to coalesce behind what they would like as well. And I think I think listening to the concerns of residents, which are on both sides of the issue, is important, but I also think listening to the experts like yourself and those that you're employing make a huge difference in making, because I think there's a commonality that everybody that has a driver's license thinks they're a traffic engineer, but hearing from actual traffic engineers I've found to be helpful. So I would like the opportunity for more data to make an informed decision.
Is that a motion?
Yes, it is a motion.
Mr. Canty makes the motion that we extend the trial period for the one-way pilot on Fremont Street to allow for a full 12-month cycle. Is that a good summary?
Yes.
We're going to keep it in the board at this point in time. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Iaquinto seconds. Further discussion? Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Mr. Quinto?
No.
And myself, yes. So we will extend the period for, is it 9 months, additional months to get us to the 12-month, and then we'll come back for an update at that point in time.
Okay,
Thank you. I know there were folks in the audience who were raising their hands during this, but because we did public comment earlier, I didn't want to get into a back and forth between staff and audience or board and audience. I think it's important for us to keep business moving, so I can appreciate that that may have been frustrating, but I need to keep order of this and keep the meeting moving forward. All right, thank you, James.
Chairman, if I could just add one
Sure.
last thing. So during that 9-month period, we will still keep an ear open to the public. So if they have any further comments or questions, they could always reach out to the engineering department and we could talk with them directly.
Thank you, appreciate
Okay,
that.
you're welcome.
Mr. Brindisi, do you have any additional updates for the board?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll take a few minutes. So, for us, I just want to recognize a couple individuals who recently retired from the town of Plymouth. The first is Captain Doug Pigeon. He just retired yesterday from the fire department after serving almost 34 years in the fire department. So we thank Captain Pigeon for his years of service to this community. I also want to recognize our airport supervisor, Will Hayes, who has served this community up at the airport for over 38 years. So congratulations to those individuals into their retirements, and I hope them many good, helpful years to come during their retirement years. I just want to give a quick update on Memorial Hall. So I just want the board to be aware that, and this happened during the winter storm, that it's been determined that the boiler at Memorial Hall is not repairable and will need to be replaced. This is in addition to the replacement cost of a new generator as well. We're working with procurement, and we're hoping to get an estimate from North Star in the coming weeks. But this is the furnace. Since only one furnace is operational, much of Memorial Hall is still without heat. Despite having no heat, the Blue Room has maintained a temperature around 70 degrees. So we've been able to keep moving forward with some of our recreation programs. But again, if we continue to have temperatures fall, we may have to relocate some of those programs. So again, this is just more part of the story of Memorial Hall, and the building continues to fall in disrepair. I just want to make note that because of the storm last week, some of our veterans checks, they were due this coming Thursday, but due to the storm, we weren't able to issue them. So we'll work with the finance department to get those checks issued to the veterans as quickly as possible. But I want folks to be aware that if you are a veteran, you're expecting one of these checks, you can reach out to Roxanne Whitbeck, who is our veterans agent. We have a program for gap assistance, and so we're able to assist those veterans until they get those checks. And then I just want to read something that was drafted by the fire chief. And this has to do with the passing of Rick Scribath. He was a dedicated public safety professional and paramedic who served the Plymouth community since 2015 with Brewster Ambulance. He had an extensive career, serving 29 years as a firefighter, a lieutenant, and paramedic. He also worked for 10 years with the Mattapoisett Police and EMS, and briefly with Marion Fire and EMS as a lieutenant and supervisor. Throughout his decades of service, he was a provider, he was an instructor, he was a field training officer, and a mentor. positively impacting countless lives. Rick's calm demeanor, skill, and commitment to caring for others left a lasting impression on our EMS system and all of us who had the privilege of working with him. On behalf of the Plymouth Fire Department and the community, we extend our deepest condolences to his wife, Pamela, who was also a paramedic with Brewster in Plymouth, and to his entire family. So that's signed by Chief Foley. I just wanted folks to be aware that, you know, we lost one of the good ones most recently. Pending any questions, I'm going to end there tonight.
Derek, I'd like to offer a moment of silence in Rick's memory. Thank you. Questions from the board? Mr. Quinto?
Yeah, well, Derek, well, Mr. Coyle's here. Bill, will the transfer station or anything be open when the weather warms up for the residents to maybe drop off some debris, or have you discussed that yet? Or will you be?
Yes, Bill Coyle, DPW Director. Yes, sir, we are looking at dates currently. We were thinking a couple weeks out, but we thought that we might want to wait a little bit longer to give folks an opportunity for some of the snow to melt, but we will be opening up a Saturday and Sunday in the next few weeks down the road. But we will post that online and get some message boards out there as well to let the public know.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, because it's going to start being, 50 degrees this weekend, Saturday,
We're looking
Sunday?
forward to
Yeah.
it because we're out treating roads again tonight. Things are icing up, so be careful out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, thank you, Mr. Brindisi. I got a message from Mr. Mark Pulcinelli that he was iPhone 95. Mr. Pulcinelli, if you're watching and you'd like to come back, I'm happy to give you the opportunity to give your public comment. In the meantime, we'll move on to select board discussion, new business. Mr. Cohen?
I'd like to put on the agenda revisiting Article 18, Priority 2, was part of the CICI decision. I'd like to bring that back, and I voted in the affirmative, but I was looking to revisit it based on some new information that I was gathering about the conditions of that article. That's the article for lighting at the training green. So I'd like to put that for discussion in the future. And it's pretty time sensitive because we would have to adhere to the other information that's being distributed to town meeting in the next couple of weeks. So I'd ask that that be put on the agenda. I also would like to put on the agenda a reconstituting of the Water Conservation Committee. To this board once before, I think that it's important that this committee has not been meeting for the last well over a year. We do rely on a report that they did, we heard earlier this year. So I'd like to look at that.
Can you turn your microphone?
That I'd like to see that we put that on the future agenda, that we have the reconstitution of the Water Conservation Committee. I'd also like to choose a date in the near future for bringing the Plymouth Philharmonic back in before the board. I know that there's been efforts to have conversations with the Philharmonic about this idea that we discussed earlier about the artisan in residence and what that might look like. So I know that there's been a series of discussions and they will continue with staff. But I'd like to, look at our calendar in the near future to have that put on the agenda in the near future. Looking at the dates that might work, the 17th or the 24th of March.
Thank you. Other new business? Letters? Ms. Iaquinto?
I think this is a combination of letters and old business, so I'm going to take a shot at it. Okay. So I got an inquiry today from a resident who was wondering if we'd made any progress on evaluating options for trash removal. So back in November, I know we had talked about it at one of our, I think on one of our on the road meetings, it had come up that, the concern was that there are so many different trash haulers in town, and some of them are reliable and some are not. And some, neighborhoods have 5 or 6 different haulers coming through at different days. And I believe at that time, we had said that we would talk about it and put it on an agenda for after the first of the year. So this resident was just following up on that. I was just wondering if we could add that to our list of things to get on an agenda, just to explore what our options might be. Maybe talk a little bit about the history of what we've done in the past, and just think through a little bit if there is anything more that we can do to streamline the process and make it more efficient for residents, and also make it more environmentally friendly. Take some of the trucks off the road, or, just kind of consolidate them.
Yeah, I had actually been the person asked, I think, to put this on the
I think it
agenda.
was you,
And I had some preliminary conversations with the town manager about what it might look like. Given the financial constraints that we're facing, I decided not to further pursue it, but I'm happy to revive it if you'd like to talk further about it.
If we could even just chat about it, it might not even be a fully town-funded option. There could be some other things that we might think about that, people that would be willing to pay for a more reliable, streamlined, consolidated service. I just don't know what the options are.
Yeah.
So.
Great. Other letters? Old business? Mr. Quintel?
I don't know if it's old or not, but and North Plymouth lot, Derek, and I don't know what we can do and what the bylaws are. There's like 5 box trucks in there. When I say box trucks, like plumbing trucks. They weren't lettered, so I can't. But you could see actually 2 had snow all over them. They never were moved in the before the storm. There was a couple of cars too. So apparently people just leave their vehicles there. But I mean, I don't have a problem with the vehicles, personal vehicles, but 5 white box trucks, I don't think they need to be in that parking lot. It's for residents and it's for the businesses there.
Which lot again is this?
The one that's by the Rio Steakhouse, the one across from St. Mary's Church.
Okay.
And the giveaway is the snow. You can see they haven't moved, so. Some of them, I think there was 2 that didn't even have license plates. It's not like I got nothing to do, but I check out and see what's going on, how it's going. It's my observation. And I don't know where we're going with our trash, but I'll tell you what, Messiah Quinto, you picked a hot subject. In my 21 years, that's probably number 2. Yeah, I'll be more than happy to share a little bit. I mean, it's years old, but how we got to where we are and why. And it was quite interesting, to say the least. So, but I mean,
Realize I had
gladly I'm
opened
open,
something
but
up.
yeah.
Okay.
It's a very hot button subject.
Okay. Well, you're welcome.
Get ready.
Certainly not afraid of hot button subjects. Other old business, Mr. Canty?
So I think that the DPW and first responders did a great job with the resources that they had available to them in response to both the February blizzard as well as the January storm. And the February blizzard still involved a lot of remaining features of the January storm due to the cold weather we'd had in the interim. But I do think once the dust has settled, it would be useful to have, we've talked about it before, so I would consider it to be old business. But I do think it would be useful to have sort of a debrief about what we did well and what we'd like to see improve in terms of our response to future storms. And that could also include adjustments to contractors and how we employ contractors, as well as making sure that we have adequate equipment. And equipment often takes, as we've heard in other presentations, DPW and otherwise, it can take some time to acquire that equipment. So the sooner we talk about it, the sooner we'll be able to face a winter better equipped. Again, I think they did a great job with the resources they had. They were asked in many ways to make bricks without straw, but with anything, it is important to debrief, analyze, and learn from your experiences, positive and negative. So I think that would be a useful exercise. Mr. Brindisi?
Yeah, I can just share some information on that. We had an after-action hot wash this morning with all the different departments. We talked about what worked and what didn't work. So we can compile that data and come back to the board with a presentation. I agree with Mr. Canty. We had limited resources and we did what we could with the resources that we had. And, maybe we have to do some investments. I think that there was we talked about changing the rates for contractors. Maybe that'll increase the number of operators that we have in the future. We talked about some potential bylaw changes that we may want to bring to bear. So we're happy to share all that. If you could give us about a month to compile that data and come back, and we're happy to do a presentation.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I will say at the outset, I think in a blizzard where people are getting 3 feet of snow, they're probably not going to be looking at their bylaws to see if they have to clear their sidewalks. But I think there's things we can look at and learn from in advance, particularly when they have no power. Correct. Mr. Quintel?
Well, we're learning, I think, I've said it before, in the policy you made for the select board, you put in that within 6 months that every board member gets trained in the EOC center. I think that's, what we're talking blizzards, that should be number one.
Other old business, Mr. Cohen?
Just to, obviously, the presentation earlier tonight was a nice forensic look at how the town responded and where we were successful working with the coordination between our Department of Public Works, which is on the front line with the fire and the police and town employees. So that was quite impressive. And the coordination with Eversource, because one of the most concerning elements to this storm was the loss of power and heat, and having people across our town struggling with that. It's a dangerous health emergency. I think it's nice to have the staff present, but I think it's worthy of a workshop where the select board is interacting with staff, coming up with, having a strategy in November about how we approach the weather, whether it's winter storms or hurricanes or other events that we might have. I think it's important because as an elected official, during that storm, I got quite a few phone calls from residents that were quite concerned about their circumstance. They couldn't get through to any other line but my phone line, and they were calling looking for help without power, not able to access C-Click-Fix or access the other resources, or if they did, they weren't successful and they were reaching out to me, and I heard panic in people's voice about loved ones and family members and people of age and people that had health issues. But I was glad I was able to reach the appropriate people within the town to make sure that those interactions were resolved in a successful way. So I do want to get an understanding of what the role is of a select board member during a storm like that. I don't want to get under the foot of staff, but I do want to know, what is going on so I can convey that to the people that are reaching out to me. And I would like to, I think that this, what is being proposed as more so than a presentation, but an interaction with staff on some ideas of what our roles are and what we see as successful things that we want to continue and things that we see needing improvement. So I would move it to a workshop status if that was the pleasure of the board.
Other old business? Is Mr. Pulcinelli online? All right. Well, I'll invite him to join us at our next meeting, which happens to be tomorrow. We will be meeting in the courthouse tomorrow. Is that right, Jade? In the rope walk room for our budget workshop. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Mr. Quintel makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Iaquinto seconds. Discussion? Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Mr. Quintel?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
And myself, yes. We are adjourned. Thank you.
This goes paper.